You can. Yeah, you bet.
Okay, great.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to our March 2025 strategic targeting call. This is round three. So hopefully some of you have been with us for the third time. If you are a newbie today, we will have a quick review on some things that we've covered in the first couple of months, just so you can kind of follow the language and our goal and what we're trying to accomplish. Please meet Allie Matthews. If you were on last month, you met Allie, but if you're new to this call, say, hey, Allie, tell us a little bit about
Hi.
her.
Hi, guys. I am excited to be back. I am, for those of you who didn't meet me last time, I am a fast casual sales leader based out of DC and have been on sort of the catering sales team in some capacity, either as a manager or a director for the last 8-ish years all across the country. So I'm excited to be back.
And I asked Allie to partner with us just because I love her passion and her energy for the industry. I've met a lot of people over the years, and she has just a real strong passion for what she does. She's such a logical thinker, which is fantastic as well. She can kind of I've seen her firsthand already kind of pick things apart and find the root in there, and that's that analysis is really cool. So we're glad to have her. For those of you who aren't familiar with me, my name is Byron Duncan. I'm the owner and CEO of New Catering Connections. I have been in the industry for a really long time, 20 something years at this point. But I was with the Honey Baked Ham Company for a long time as their national director for corporate catering and corporate gifting. And we now are part of, again, our company's called New Catering Connections, and we're working with well over 1,000 restaurants at this point with a robust and growing team of 60. So we are excited. We're part of the Catermind family. So for those of you that might not be familiar with Catermind, Catermind is a community of catering vendors that are actually working together to kind of keep adding value and creating new ideas and education and all those things that are really necessary to kind of help grow the industry. And we're doing it all just as a give back to the community. It's something that's very important and a passion point for all of us. If you're out there in the catering world and you're trying to just kind of turn the corner or make that one huge thing happen, if we can be a small part of that, that adds so much joy and value. I know for me personally, anytime I can help someone be better at what they do, I'm getting something out of it. I promise you. If just the joy and the value of being able to work with someone and that's part of the reason we asked Allie to be a part of this. She's got that same kind of passion, and we're actually excited to have her as being part of our Catermind community as well. So we're going to talk about March. One thing with these calls, you're going to kind of get the trend. Anytime we talk about whatever month we're in, we're always going to be talking about the month ahead. So your March call is always going to be talking about April. April's going to talk about May and so on. And the reason we're always a month ahead is because the first rule of catering sales is that you want to start 6 to 8 weeks before the opportunities hit. And so we want to make sure we're ahead of that as we're doing these calls. I have some dad humor sprinkled into some of this stuff. So the first one with shower us with catering is that whole March winds bring April showers kind of mindset. It's that time of year where the thaw starts to happen, I guess is the best way to say it, the catering thaw. As you get out of the brown and move more into the green. So you'll see my color schemes even has some creativity to it as well. So first of all, a little bit about Catermind. It is we have a site now. We always say, let us take you to school. And we spelled it wrong because we actually have our site on school.com. So if you want to visit, it's www.skool.com /Catermind-6203. I believe Arya said they were going to put that in the in the chat channel. So if you wanted to check there, you should be able to see the website. It is free to join. We are looking for folks that want to come in and participate and be part of our community. It's powered by experts that really want to make this happen. And it's something that we've donated to it is you get free access to the NCC catering calendar. So if you sign up, you'll see where it says right there, welcome to Catermind Sales and Marketing. Here's your free gift. It's for you and your entire team to be able to use and have some fun with. A lot of the catering calendar information you'll see on there actually is what helps populate a lot of these presentations. So you'll see a lot of information that we think is going to be very, very helpful for you. We're looking for new folks to join, so please do. I think we were 35 members this morning, but we've only been open for a day or two. So if you want to join us and become a part of our community, please do. And we're always looking for folks that want to contribute. One thing that you'll find with our site is that it's not us just telling you stuff. You ask questions, you tell us, please share. And that's kind of really what helps that community to grow. So Allie is committed to also monitoring the question and answer part of this. So if you have any questions that you're going to ask along the way, she's going to be monitoring it, and we'll be kind of interrupting what we're doing, just answer some of those questions because we don't want to wait to the end because she said earlier, sometimes we lose the context on it. So we want to make sure we're answering it when it's fresh. So here we go. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get it. We're going to have what we call newbie slides. For the newbies, meaning it's your first time with us, we want to make sure we give you some of that back of the envelope context. So first thing we're going to talk about, what is strategic targeting? I mean, that's the whole point of the call. And the first part of this is not everyone caters. And so the thing that I always like to reinforce with everyone is you don't want to just pick, back in my day, it used to be grab the yellow pages and start dialing, right? So now it's like, hey, we've got these abilities to filter and to figure out what are the right targets for us. And so being able to strategically filter out the potential businesses around you to find that really hot list of catering targets that we want to focus on, that's really kind of step one to this. Our goal is to kind of help you figure out, I've got limited time and limited resources, so which are the very best targets for me to go after? So that's a little bit, when you hear strategic targeting, we're just basically saying we're filtering out those leads based on some strategic mindset, usually 10 plus employees, a certain radius around your restaurant, or certain industries that those folks are in. Another one that we always like to cover is what we would call the elephant in the room series. That's one of those things that no one really likes to talk about, but we know it impacts the industry in a major way. And I guess, Allie, since you've been in catering sales, I always like to ask this, but especially since you're managing a team of catering folks as well. In my interactions with a lot of brands, you talk to a catering salesperson, I ask them, how much of your day do you actually spend selling? And I keep getting 15%, 25%. What have you seen as far as your experience in that space?
So I try to be really focused on this. And typically I've been really blessed to have leaders who agree that we need to be selling first. And actually will call me on my, craziness sometimes when I'm demanding that I be present for an order to be made, or that I want to deliver something myself. But for the most part, we have to be very intentional in all of the brands I've been in about making sure that selling is our number one priority. And it can be uncomfortable because you want to be able to support and you want to be there for the teams, build the relationships, but really they're not paying us to do that, right? It's always good for me. I think it's worked well for me to remind the people who are paying me why they're paying me. And it's not to do the things that you have listed in the slide and wrap cookies and build orders. It is to sell.
And we put on there, the hardest thing that an owner or GM or even upper management can do is just leave their salesperson alone. Just let them do their thing. I'm not saying you can't performance manage or follow up or do all of those things, but in their selling blocks of time, let them do their thing. Because sometimes I think there's the perception, there's a person sitting down or they're on the phone, that they're not busy.
I had one person years ago, I had a leader tell me that if they didn't see what I was doing, they assumed I was doing nothing. And I think it's hard when you're not used to seeing the results yet, especially if you're new at this or your organization is new at testing something like this. It can be really hard. And I think, the flip side of that is that as salespeople, we can have a lot of independence, and we have to make sure that our results are speaking for themselves and not, making excuses. Because if we are given that freedom to be selling and we are asking to be left alone, our results need to show that when we're left alone, we're performing really well.
And you need to make sure that if somebody asks you for proof of what you're doing, that you have it. And I think that's a big part of it too. It's that the validation of what you did on the back end is important. And so, yeah. So if you're a salesperson out there, the point is we feel your pain. We understand. I think if you ever need some suggestions, that's what Catermind is going to be for. So go to our site and say, hey, give me some help. This is a situation. And some of our experts will be able to kind of give you some suggestions. One thing that we always pushed back on was carve out your schedule time and have a summary. And at the end of the day, have that summary turned in. And those are little things that can start to build confidence and trust with your leadership team. If you're the leaders out there, just even if it's against your normal way to handle things, maybe just give them a chance, suck it up for a little bit, and give them some chance to prove themselves out before you micromanage the process to death. So, just one of those topics is is always a little bit uncomfortable, but we're going to talk through some of those each month as we go as well. So, another newbie slide, just to understand some terms here. What are VBR sales? VBR stands for valid business reason. It's a sales model that says, I'm not going to call and ask if you cater during the year. I'm going to call with the assumption you do and ask if you are going to be catering for this upcoming event. And then we're going to talk about what that event is. And so as you go through these calls today, you're going to hear that term VBR a lot. A VBR is an icebreaker. It's a talking point. It's an event that occurs on the calendar that allows you to have a deeper conversation with a prospect, either on the phone or as you visit in person. And then there's a sales calendar. So again, if you go to Catermind and you signed up, we'll give you free access to the NCC catering calendar. That's what all of our internal people use. It has that list of all of those events all year long for you to be able to use and tie in to figure out what's my next VBR. And so we're going to talk about some VBRs today, some really big ones that hit the calendar. And so just this is, again, a newbie slide. If some of you have been here, you've seen it before. But just to reiterate, what a VBR is a valid business reason. And we're going to talk about a little bit more what some of those are going to be. The goal of VBR sales, again, as a newbie slide, is a assumption about an event, not necessarily asking, do you cater? And that can come up in a conversation organically. But if you're saying, hey, this Friday is Employee Appreciation Day, have you planned your celebration meals yet? If they say we're not doing anything like that, then you can come back and say, well, do you do anything at other parts during the year? But you've at least opened the door with the assumption up front. So always, like we said here, you wouldn't call a car dealer asking if they cater. You already assume they do. You're just asking to get in their rotation. It's no different. We're just applying that logic to other things on the calendar all year long. And then the final newbie slide is, what is a listening window? We touched on it right at the start. 6 to 8 weeks before an event is when you really want to start your outreach. If you have no history in a market, so you're going new, I don't know any of the schools, this is the right time to kind of start getting ahead of Teacher Appreciation Week. I want to reach out to schools. I want to start getting to know the secretary, getting to know the principals, finding what they've ordered in the past. You're not necessarily selling right now. You're fact finding, you're learning, and maybe starting to share some information. And so the listening window is that time before an event where a business is most likely to be open-minded enough to listen. And that's what we want to take advantage of. So a good example would be right now, you wouldn't call big box retail for Black Friday, right? We're too far away. You probably would talk to CPA firms right now. You wouldn't talk to them in September because they focus hard on tax season. Not a whole lot going on in September. So understanding that window that makes the most sense. All right. Probably going to spend a pretty good little chunk of time here because this is one of my passion points. Right here at the bottom, you'll see where it says a general VBR, valid business reason. There's about 3 of those during the year that are really strong possible targets that you can use that apply across a lot of different businesses. The first one we just talked about, Employee Appreciation Day. The second one, what you might be familiar with, would be, are you doing anything special for the holiday season, right? Holidays are something that are appeal across the board to a variety of businesses. Administrative Professionals Week is the other. It's a general VBR because every business has some form, traditionally, if you're going to cater there at least, will have some form of an administrative professional. Secretary, receptionist, executive assistant, office manager. There's a variety of little terms and how we define it, but they all fall into this window. And they're usually a decision maker, an influencer, or a gatekeeper, or some combination of all 3. And so understanding their value to this is really important. So let's get into some of the context here. And I'll just pose this question. Allie, please share with me your thoughts as soon as I ask it. Is Admin Week a selling event or a marketing event? And I know what I think. So
I was going to say, I know what you want me to say here.
Yeah, and say your piece. That's why we want both sides. I'm with
I
you.
think it can be both. Why not both? I think it can be both. I do think that we lead with this being a marketing event, but I think there are ways that we can talk about a little bit later where we can sort of strategize to make this both a selling and a marketing event.
So to give you, and first of all, as you probably can already tell, I believe this is a true marketing event, and here's why. And I'll say my piece in 15 or 20 seconds. The folks that you would be reaching out to with this valid business reason are the people that are being celebrated. And so it's hard to sell when you're expressing appreciation or thanks. And so if these people are those that do make decisions all year long, which traditionally are a decision maker, influencer, or a gatekeeper, the ability to utilize this week as a marketing strategy to build relationships and rapport with them. So not only can you, it's almost like to me swapping a short-term sale for the long-term business for the remainder of the year and beyond. I think I know where Allie's coming from with it, though, and I do probably agree with her on that point. But so a couple things real quick. Admin week to me is not a time to actively sell. It should be a time to visit, meet with as many admin professionals as humanly possible. And we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Those days should be filled with drop-by visits, gifts, and well wishes. The goal is to be the one not selling that week, but showing appreciation. So you can stand out from your competitors in that sense. And then if you're visiting in the morning, please bring food and please bring lunch. If you're visiting in the afternoon, we can talk about cookies or sweets or whatever you would normally do. And then your existing clients, spend time in March scheduling those drop-bys. You already have a relationship, so it's totally acceptable to kind of schedule. And then look as your prospecting folks is where you might be doing more of the drop-ins versus the cold drop-ins versus the setting it up. So are you truly showing appreciation when you're selling? So I have at the bottom, would you like to order lunch that week to celebrate? Or since this is your week, I'd love to drop off a free lunch to celebrate. So it's kind of a mindset that you have here. So let's talk to a little bit more detail. So, and I'm not sure where we can interject. Allie, let's express your thoughts on this, and we'll kind of incorporate it into what we're doing.
Well, I think we can talk about a little bit more in the next couple, but I think basically to me, there's I think of it as like not selling versus marketing, but more of like a soft sell versus a hard sell, right? So in the instance where the administrative professional is the decision maker, which may be 50% of their orders throughout the year, right? Then potentially this is a marketing event because we are looking to just celebrate them and we want to lean into that no matter what we're doing. However, in the instance, which may be, I don't know, 20 or 30% of the orders that they do a year, that the administrative professional is the gatekeeper or influencer or whatever, I think this is the chance we have to sort of be selling, right? So if we're saying like, we want to celebrate you and we're dropping something off to you, we just want to bring something by. We want to bring you lunch to celebrate you. Administrative Professionals Week is at the end of this month, but we don't have time to meet everybody at the end of the month. So I really want to get to you earlier. I can spend the entire month then building up a sort of base to go back to and say like, did your boss decide to celebrate you guys, or what are we doing? Did we figure out a way to celebrate you? And if so, like, how can I help support that? And this time more in a paid way, right? Like, so I'm not doing just drop-offs. So I think that we can spend the time leading up to some of these weeks, especially the big ones like Admin Week, where we're not going to be able to get to all of our targets in 1 week. And if we are, we probably should be doing some other things that will generate actual sales, especially if we're coming at this from a marketing perspective. So I think that using more of that time and saying like, hey, I really want to celebrate you. I know your week is at the end of the month, but like, does your boss even know this is going on? Let me celebrate this with you so that they can know and they'll do something to celebrate you too. I think there are ways that we can create an opportunity for sales earlier in the month, by kind of coming at it again from like a softer sell approach.
And that's actually an excellent way to phrase it. So I appreciate that. So when we say things like, most admin professionals or decision makers, influencers, or gatekeepers, that explanation works really well because you can go from, hey, I'm here, I'm on your side, hey, thank you, but now I'm going, hey, what's up with your boss? Why hasn't he? You can kind of come in it from a buddy perspective versus that sell, which I think that's a great point. The benefit is if you can get them that relationship established and then beginning to nurture it, you're setting yourself up for multiple months of potential orders. and possibly I put 3 months. It can go 6, 9 years even if you get it right. The whole point of this visit, regardless of if you're selling or marketing, is you have to introduce them to your product, and you can't introduce. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. We always would say one bite is worth 1,000 pictures, because no matter how many pictures of your product, I can't get a full understanding of it until I take my first bite. So if you're going to go through the trouble of reaching out and visiting folks, bring your product, bring what you sell. And if you are a sandwich shop, don't bring a cookie. And if you're a cookie shop, don't bring a cup of coffee. I mean, bring what you sell. Lead with your star, I guess is the best way to say something. So schedule visits to customers, casually drop by to prospects with the goal of making a good first impression. So this is, again, a prospecting conversation. If you've got a history in a relationship, those are different conversations. Those are different thank yous. Those will probably be even less salesy and more appreciation based than a prospecting one where you're trying to get your menu out and do all that stuff as well. So what does that conversation look like? So I've kind of done a little scripting here. So, hey, my name is Byron. I'm with ABC Restaurant. Happy Admin Appreciation Week. I'm visiting some of the top administrative professionals in the city. So you're kind of stroking an ego slightly. And I wanted to come by and say thanks. And at ABC, we always feel that the best way to say thanks is with food. So I brought a couple of our most popular menu items. One is for you and one is to share. I've always been a proponent of the bring two and have one to share. Allie, have you had any? Is that your model as well?
Yeah, I think if you're going to do it, one of the things that we've always, in every concept I've been in over the last 8 years, we say, like, if you're going to do something, do it big, because there's nothing worse than trying to celebrate someone or to say thank you and have it feel cheap or underwhelming. So however you phrase it, I mean, there are practical benefits to this too, right? Like maybe they don't eat meat, so you bring one that's a vegetarian option and one that's not, and maybe they share that or maybe they don't. It doesn't matter. The point is you want to go above and beyond. Similar to like when we make a mistake, we don't just like email and say we're sorry. We send flowers to the office or, things like that where if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right and we're going to do it big, because otherwise it's a waste of our time and money.
And you're right. Having options is good, because maybe the one thing, like, for example, if you brought something with me with raisins in it, you're out of luck. You're not going to impress me. So if you have two options, one without raisins, I'm a much happier person. So I also brought a packet of information about our restaurant. So here's the soft sell that Allie was talking about that I probably should have fessed up and said, yeah, I guess I would do some of that. But including a copy of our restaurant menu and our catering menu, right? So it's the last sentence is the one that's most memorable. That's some kind of their psychology that tells you the last thing they hear is what they're going to remember. And if the last thing you said, a copy of our catering menu, you don't have to sell much. You've just laid the groundwork for it. Oh, I didn't know you cater. Oh, yeah. And now we've got a conversation going. So come in with gifts, share your information. It makes all the difference in the world on what that first impression and how that conversation will go. So excellent. I love the dialogue there. All right. So if it's on the phone, a little bit different, right? You can't impress as easily because you're not walking in with gifts. And on the phone, if you're if you're doing it on the phone, it means your resources might be a little tight, and we'll talk about structure and how that lays out shortly. But the idea is that on the phone, you've got to be a little bit more persuasive. You got to be a little bit more catch their attention because they don't know you and you don't have a history. So hi, my name is Byron with ABC Restaurant here in town, making it local. How are you? In celebration of Admin Appreciation Week, we're reaching out to dynamic local businesses just to say thanks. And we always feel the best way to say thanks is with food. If you haven't tried us before, we would love to drop off a thank you lunch the week of April 22nd, if that's okay. To Allie's point, you don't have to wait that week if you don't want to. We can do this faster. If you have some time next week, I can drop it off next week, but in celebration of. I'd love to bring by X, but if there's something you've been wanting to try, let me know, and I'll be happy to make it happen. Now you're kind of, oh, well, I haven't eaten there before. Well, let me send you, well, here's our menu. If you want to go to our website, now we're having a deeper conversation. I've even emailed people while we're talking before, so they can kind of get a look. Any thoughts on that, Allie? I know that's a lot of this basic stuff, but.
No, we talked about this last month though, and I think it probably goes without saying, but I just want to reiterate that whatever you are committing to here, make sure that you are 100% certain you can deliver it. As far as time goes and whatever, right? We're over performing and undercommitting or whatever the phrase is, right? We're going to make sure that we are following through on everything that we're saying we're going to do on this, especially from a time perspective. The only other thing I would say, and this is like a sneaky add-on because I am more, I love to sell, is if you're making that phone call anyway, and you're asking this person if you can do this for them, the other thing I would add is like, who else can I reach out to who's going to benefit from this? Or like, does your boss have anything planned for you yet for that day? Because I love to like give them the information on like why they should be celebrating you too, or something along those lines, just to get more contacts there.
Yeah, and to finish the sales piece on it, no, I agree on that as well. The one thing we're going to talk about a little bit is how to plan for it, because that's part of it, is that over promising. So it's being able to plan and set yourself up for success, and we're going to get into some of that shortly as well. So if you're going to run out of time before you run out of prospects, that's no matter where you are, that's pretty probably factual. So prioritize your list. So if you do run out of time, you won't be missing the most important ones. So I always would say, if you're using Google Sheets or Excel or whatever it is, give everyone an ABC score or 1 to 10 or hierarchy, and prioritize it. So you're not, if you do run out of time, you're prioritizing on low priorities versus the most important. Start early. To Allie's point, you can get out there early. Give yourself credit for showing appreciation. Hey, we're celebrating Admin Appreciation Week, but we'll do it the first week of April if you want. I don't mind, because we just wanted to make sure that we don't miss the opportunity. And you might be busy that week, right? Or whatever the logic is. What collateral should I bring with me? What are your thoughts on that? I have mine, but I'd like to get your take on what collateral you bring when you visit.
So again, like along the lines of going big, it's expensive probably, and it's going to take time to plan. But I love something that is specific to the VBR that you're calling about or going to visit about. Something that is showing that like you actually went to the time to really try to celebrate these admins potentially, or accounting firms if we know you're exhausted, whatever it is. I love something that speaks to that. It can be one piece of a flyer in a folder that you leave behind with your same with the same contents for everything else, but just kind of switching that out so that it really shows that there was forethought that went into this, and it wasn't just sort of I happen to be in the neighborhood and I want to use this as an excuse to go see you. And then I know that I think we've talked about this before, but anything that has a strong call to action, I think, is going to be your best bet. Anything that makes it very, very simple for them to scan and see a menu, or scan and place an order, or scan and call me, whatever it is, something that is sort of an immediate call to action, I think is always your best bet.
A couple things. One, all collateral should be branded, and it should always be personalized. So don't hand someone a packet of information that doesn't have your restaurant information on it. I've seen that more often than I care to. It's like, hey, here's a menu, but there's no address for the restaurant. There's no phone number for the restaurant. There's no point of contact. Wow. So now you've got this piece of collateral, and you hope they go to your website, or you hope they might call. So make sure everything's branded, and make sure that it's personalized. So even if you have to staple a business card to it, or to Allie's point, maybe print a QR code, at least you might get lucky on that one where they can go to your location. But make sure that whatever collateral that's going out has a name of a person for them to reach out to. There's nothing more frustrating than going, okay, I have this information, who do I call? So don't just bring menus out, have something that's personalized. When do I hand it to them so it won't be obvious? When it's either the last thing you do before you go, or you hand it over at some point if they ask questions that make sense. Well, I didn't know you guys cater. What do you have? Here you go. Here's my information that I have. If it doesn't come up, then it's a handoff right at the end as you're explaining what you're doing. If the person I meet isn't a decision maker, do I give them the gift anyway?
Are you asking me? 100%.
Yeah, well, I have a thought. Yeah.
Every time, yes, 100%. Also, I think worst case scenario here is you run out of gifts to give in this office environment or wherever you are. And then you get the opportunity to now create a new promise and follow through on that promise, which is, I didn't realize there were so many of you here. I'm so excited to do business with you. I'm going to bring this back tomorrow for everyone else. How many should I bring? Because now you're going to be back tomorrow. You're going to build that relationship even stronger, and you're making another commitment that you can follow through on. I think that's fantastic. We also just got a question here, Byron. What if the menu doesn't include pricing? Do you see an issue with that? Personally, I don't know what your take is on that, Byron.
I do. Well, at least if it doesn't have pricing, you've got to be able to give them a range. You've got to be able to clearly articulate a range. So if you don't want to put on your menus your exact price, put $12 to $15, put $10 to $13. A decision maker needs to know whether they can afford you. And there's nothing more embarrassing than if you talk to someone and you realize I can't use you, you're out of my budget. It's a waste of everyone's time. So if you don't want to put a price because you don't want to have to keep redoing your menus, at least put a range on there. That's my perspective. So, Allie, I don't know.
Yeah, I've been in an environment where there are different tiers of pricing in similar geographic areas, and that's why we decided we wouldn't have pricing on our menus in some cases. And so I don't think it's the absolute best option we have if we have a menu that doesn't have pricing. However, it is a great start. And if you're not the person making the decision on whether you have those or not, it doesn't sound like, in most cases, you get to make the decision to change that. So we have to work with what we have. And I personally think that we're creating another sort of invitation for outreach. Obviously, you're the expert on your brand. If you know, and you should know, as to Byron's point, what your price range is, you can say things like, "Oh, we're super affordable." You can scan this QR code to see like the PDF version of the menu that has pricing on it, but it varies a bit. Whatever. There are ways to, I think, make that very normal. And yeah, I think people nowadays are sort of used to like going online to find a lot of that information. So we're kind of using that as like just an appetizer, right? Like we're just kind of getting you excited about what we have, and then you can go to kind of get to the nitty gritty of it someplace else.
Well, my brain is fixed that if I'm going to take the time to go out and meet with someone and they ask me a question while we're chatting, what's your pricing? I have to have an answer for them there. Otherwise, I lose credibility as a
100%.
salesperson. So having that QR code is a great solution to say, oh, well, let me scan this for you so you can get up, or then you can scan this at any time. We update our pricing online, but for print materials, we don't, because if there's any fluctuation, whatever, you can explain that part away. And then how many gifts should I bring? Go ahead, Allie. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I also think it's a great opportunity to invite more conversation. So if they're asking like, what's your price range? You can give what Byron just said. You always should know your price ranges. However, you could say something as simple as like, and do you guys typically work within a budget, or how does it vary from event to event? Like, this is another opportunity for you to get more information and make yourselves even more valuable to that customer. So I think I don't necessarily hate it. I think if it's what you have, that's a great place to start. Anyway,
and to Allie's point, it may be out of your control, which we get. One thing I'll tell you is, and I've had these conversations with brands as we're talking to them, is your price point is your price point, and it's based on whatever criteria, whether your food cost, your portion size, it's all built in, and we understand that. I don't have a problem with anyone's price point. However, if you want to have an option to be able to do as much catering as possible, then having there's a brand we work with, they call it community pricing. So it's for things like nonprofits or churches or schools, where it's a smaller portion or a slightly different item that can price you there. So you have some options as long as you're maintaining your food costs and you're doing the things that we need to do. But pricing, being able to speak to it at least is really important. Otherwise, again, this is about credibility. It's about making connections, and it's important for us to be able to have that in there. So, all right. So any other questions about that so far that you can see, Allie? And otherwise we'll start getting into the VBR.
Yeah. Well, no, just a comment I think about the person said they stopped with printed menus in 2020, and it's been challenging to get those printed menus in clients' hands, but they do have QR codes on cards and they send follow-ups. They asked if they were alone in this trend. I don't think so. I think this is where a lot of people either have been or are going. And then we do have another question, Byron, about favorite online resources for finding new companies and contacts, maybe for prospecting. And I think, Allison, if you're
we're going to do some of that a little bit.
Yeah, we'll get to that for sure. And then if we don't answer it, hit it in the chat again so we can go.
I think we'll address some of that. One thing that I wanted to touch on about the print industry. So you said 2020, and what we all know what happened that year. Not only were we in the middle of COVID, but print houses had really had huge struggles with stock, and so printing costs skyrocketed. They're settling back to normal now. And we actually had a conversation with some folks the other day. They were saying, hey, now when we get direct mail, we open it, look at it, because many businesses now, they don't get any mail at all most of the time. And so you now have a chance to kind of stand out a little bit if you wanted to go back down that path. So, all right, a quick review of March. Since we were talking about April, you got some short windows here. Obviously, the first one's this Friday is Employee Appreciation Day. You also have a few other things that can use as a last-minute VBR. National Dentist Day, National Hospitalist Day, You got International Women's Day coming up on Saturday, World Plumbers Day, Funeral Director Appreciation Day, Girl Scout Surveyors Week, Physicians Week, and even World Theater Day. So if you've got some, some theater companies out there, they might be doing something to celebrate. I know my daughter's in theater, and last year they bought meal for all the staff, so it's an option. Who knows? All right, let's talk about April. So April is the beginning of appreciation season. It is like the literal thaw of catering, where everything kind of really heats up very quickly. I call it a wonderful 6 to 8 week window that has turned into the biggest catering spike of the year for some. I talked to a brand yesterday that said they do now more in May than they do in December. That's a big change. And he was adamant. He says, and May keeps getting bigger and bigger every year, while the holidays are kind of starting to kind of diminish a bit. So don't underestimate the value of what's coming, because if you nail it, if you get ahead of it, it can be huge. So our primary focus, we always want to talk about 4. We touched about admin week already, but we're going to get into more of the planning part of admin week in the discussion. Then we're going to talk about veterinarian receptionist week, lab professionals week, and paraprofessionals day. Realize that these are not necessarily the biggest sales driver opportunities necessarily, but they are the best VBRs for you to be able to have good conversations about ongoing sales growth. The goal here a lot of times with a VBR is, can I make a connection? Can I make the short-term sale, but can I initiate that long-term relationship? Because catering is about relationships. How you earn that relationship and how you do your outreach, whether it's digital or in person or on the phone, all can vary, but it's your ability to make that connection and then build on it. That's really where your long-term catering sales growth comes from. All right. So the best target for March, talking through April, keep in mind we're always a month ahead. Admin appreciation season has become the official kickoff of appreciation season, the first in a wave of several week seasons that are going to be coming up, including Teacher Week, Nurses Week, Construction Safety Week, which is a big one for some brands because it happens the same time as Nurses and Teachers Week, Hospital Week, which sometimes now people are not doing Nurses Week anymore, they're shifting it to Hospital Week, EMS, EMT Week, and many others. It's one of the 3 general VBRs that are coming up, which we touched on earlier. And then by truly understanding how to use this opportunity, you can open the gates for orders all year long. So we want to talk a little bit about planning, preparation, scheduling, and execution of Admin Professionals Week. And I know you were touching on this earlier, Abby. This is kind of like, some of this is your forte too, as we talk through it. I put make your plan excuse proof, which means if you give people a reason to interrupt you and give you an emergency so you don't have time to go, you will always have an emergency and you will not be able to get it done. So I always try plan, do whatever you got to do to have enough safeguards in place so you can get out, or your person can get out and make this happen. That means don't allow others to derail you from your execution. Build your list. Know your message. What are you going to say before you get out there? Define what collateral you want to bring, including your gifts. Include your team when you can. And then reiterate the importance to everybody in the staff or on the team so they understand not to interrupt you, that this is a truly big event. You're not just going hanging out and shaking hands and kissing babies kind of thing. So from a planning perspective, Allie, is there anything we're missing here? Anything that you found more crucial?
No, I would just say 2 things. One, you're the expert on your own situation. So you know potentially how much time you have to devote to something like this. And that may be more or less depending on your level of involvement with ops or whatever else you're doing that is not selling. And so I would say if you're someone who knows you're often pulled into an operations environment or you're not allowed the time to sell, I would say saying that you're going to do this for 2 weeks straight is unrealistic and you will fail. Set yourself up for something that is attainable. And if that means that you only have 45 minutes to do it, then make sure that 45 minutes you're hitting the top customers you want to hit, or the top prospects you want to hit. And the other side of that is, if you have a ton of this time, I think you need to weigh, what is this worth to me? And I think then you decide based on that. And the other thing I would say is, not only are you the expert, you also have to be, you can't be a victim in this situation. You can't only get the time that they allow you to get. You need to argue a little bit for the time, right? And maybe not combatively, but you need to create a compelling case as to why you must be doing this. And yeah, you need to own that a little bit. Make sure that no one is unclear about what you're doing. Make sure that everyone understands the value, because it's really hard to say no to somebody when they're promising to drive sales for you. So
did you have any days or times of day that you preferred to kind of get out into the community?
It depends on the brand. In brands where we've had a call center environment that handles like the triage of, issues around lunchtime or whatever. And again, I've always been in fast casual. So lunchtime is typically when we see the highest volume. I try to make it during lunchtime, earlier on the early lunchtime end, maybe like 11-ish is when I would start being in offices, even like 10:45, to try to drop off lunch, so that if it is unannounced, like if I have a visit planned on 2 floors of a building and I just happen to be able to stop at a 3rd floor where I am just brand new introducing myself, then I've gotten them before they would actually like go to lunch or have their lunch. So I like doing that. But in an environment where I don't have that, I do love to do an afternoon drop. To your point, lunch may not be the best thing in an afternoon drop. I'm thinking maybe 1:45 to 3:30 is a great time frame that I found. And in that instance, I usually will do, I think what you said earlier, cookies and coffee, or like a hummus and pita, or something that was like an afternoon pick me up, sort of like happy hour vibe. Yeah.
Cool. I also think look at what your weekly schedule is like. I know I'll share back with the Honey Baked. In my Honey Baked days, there was production that would take place at Honey Baked on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Production meaning glazing the hams and such in the back. So those were not good days to go out. So we did Tuesday and Thursday mornings, and we did from 9 to 11. And so you start reaching out to businesses, and we would do a 2-hour window where you could hit 20 businesses. And so it gets back to your planning. Make sure you're scheduling, building a map, understanding your route, all of those things to kind of help maximize so you can hit as many as possible. So I'm a firm believer morning is better, but if you do go in the afternoon, it's really more of a gesture. But if you've got for lack of a word, a kick-ass dessert, bring it. I think that can make just as huge an impact. So prepare far enough ahead. Your time will disappear. So if you've got 10 minutes or 30 minutes, what do I need to order? What do I need to do? Can I start filling folders? What can I do to start getting myself prepared for this? Include your team. Hey, you're not doing anything for the next 15 minutes. Stuff some folders or staple some business cards to my menus and such. So include your team, order your collateral, order any supplies you need that you're going to be giving away. So any extras that you're going to need, do so. So build your inventory as needed. Use technology where you can, helping you with maps, helping you with routes, those types of things. Asking for help from others. Again, if you start to feel overwhelmed, ask for help. Hey, can you give me 10 minutes? Can you give me 15? Sometimes those little pieces of help will make you more efficient and probably slightly less stressed out for a little pocket of time. So for the schedule, staff accordingly to keep your time free if you can. If there's a delivery and they normally want you to deliver on Thursdays, but you want to go out and do this, ask them to bring in another person to do the delivery that day because you've got a schedule that you want to keep. Add additional staff to prevent emergencies, which we touched on. Start at 9 a.m., go through noon. Those are little things that I think going through in the morning. Start again at 1 if you need to. Again, there's windows if you want to. If you can't, to her point, you can do 45 minutes, do 45. If you can get 2 or 3 hours, it's so rewarding. I'm just telling you, it's really rewarding. Execute, stay on your plan, pivot as needed. You get to 3 offices in a row and security's not letting you in any of them. You don't want to waste the rest of your shift. Go hit some places that don't have security where you can get in the door. Find ways to be efficient. So I know that one's a big one. So Allie, talk on that a little bit because I know you're all about volume and being able to really.
I am. What do I say? It's a numbers game. It's always a numbers game. Byron, this actually fits in. We have a question. We have a couple, but I think we're going to get to some about LinkedIn and stuff like that later, and online tools for prospecting. I'm going to leave that later. But this question I think pertains to this is, you think it's better to build those connections with in-person visits or dry calls? Which one basically is more effective in creating those? And I think this goes into my efficiency conversation here, which to me, it's so much more efficient to call first. I will almost never, I would say less than 10% of the time, am I ever showing up to an office that I haven't called first to talk to an admin and create this like commitment that I can follow up on, especially in a world where we don't know if everyone's in the office anymore. It just feels like sort of a waste of my time to stop at every floor in a building. And in a city like DC, it's nearly impossible to find a place where you can do that. So I know it's a little bit different in the burbs, and when I've covered those, it's a little easier and more attainable. But I would say for me, the most effective starting point is going to be a call. And then typically if I feel like this is moving in the right direction, then I'm going to move that into an in-person visit. And that's sort of what we've been talking about here. But it's sort of, to me, it's implied, or we should talk about more, the fact that I would almost never show up to an office without having announced that I would be there.
And so the great point, there's a lot of great points in there. I would tell you if you were in a busy city and that's the scenario, yes, the call ahead is better. Blue collar, I would say blue collar walk in. Be the element of surprise. You're going to pop. You're going to make somebody's day. Service companies, those types of things. Retail, you can walk in. Schools, depending on where you are, you need to check. If you are looking for legal, engineering, those types of advertising agencies, yes, the call ahead, I think definitely. So it's kind of a white collar, blue collar play. Personally,
Interesting. I never thought of it that way.
When I'm visiting, I'm doing the blue collar route and I'm calling white collar. That's usually how my brain has always worked. All right, so I'm afraid we're behind. So be prepared with extras for unexpected finds. And she touched on that earlier. If you've got 10 more lunches in the car and you brought 2, but there's 5 people in there, go get 3 more and bring them to the folks so everybody can kind of participate. And you might cut down on how many you visit, but you're going to make that visit that much better. And then work in teams if it's possible. We used to get general managers from 2 nearby locations. One day they would work on one trade area, they work as a team. The next week they would help each other. It builds camaraderie between the locations, and there's a synergy. When there's 2 people walking in to talk to one person, it evens out. There's an evenness there because it's you and your partner versus them and their building, right? So it kind of evens out a little bit. So yeah, sorry. So let's talk about the other 3 VBRs real quick before we run out of time, because they're all going to follow the same format, but we wanted to just touch on what the logic is behind. So veterinary receptionist week, veterinary catering orders are on the rise. Pet pharma is, if you're a pet owner, is now a huge thing and it's getting bigger. And so pet pharma reps have budgets, not the same kind of restrictions either. They have some more leeway and play in how they can spend their monies. So they can just say, I want to drop off a fruit tray. They'll call you and maybe. So get out into that a little bit. Talk to your veterinarians. Understand how that vet pharma world is existing right now. We see it on our end. I saw 3 or 4 veterinary orders yesterday come through. So it is something that I think is on the rise and worth reaching out to. Again, if you're reaching out in person, bring goodies. If it's on the phone, focus on the celebration of the week. But you can also fall back to admin week as a second talking point. It's happening in the same window of time. Inquire about the reps. How do they spend their money? How often do they come? Is there a book, kind of like medical pharma? And then anytime you use the VBR, always wrap up with thank you, enjoy your week. We always want to make sure the final thing that we're leaving them with is the thank you and the appreciation, regardless of what conversations are happening before. We'll send this out to you so you can understand, but who are the targets? Veterinary offices, pet hospitals, and if you can locate them, the pet pharmaceutical reps. The use case, again, the short-term celebration is the use case. The ongoing opportunities is the long game here, right? That's what we're really trying to reach out for and understand. How often do you bring in food during the year? Because there is a vet tech week later in the year, which also generates, I want to say it's September and I might be wrong. I'm sure my people, if they're hearing me, are saying, nope, you got it wrong. But it's on the calendar if you want to look into it. How to connect your menu, highlight your celebration options that are on your menu for those types of things. And then you can kind of get into product visualization. Well, show me the room where you guys eat. Do you eat together or do you have to eat in shifts? Or it helps to understand whether I need an individual meal or a buffet or a box or a bar or whatever it is. Understanding their menu kind of allows you to be more of the true catering expert on this. Medical Lab Week or National Lab Professionals Week is also one of those things that people miss. And each month I always like to have a type opportunity. And this is one that people tend to skip over. I got online and I did a quick search of medical labs and just medical labs. I didn't get into science or food labs or anything else, just medical. Birmingham, Alabama has 30. Nashville has 28. Tampa has 53. And these are at least 10 employees. So they're not ever on everybody's radar too often, but traditionally they will buy meals for this coming week. And there's some usually opportunities that take place during the year, whether it's execution achievements, the holidays, meeting deadlines, whatever it is. So a lot of these are going to be hospital based. So another good entryway into your hospital system. And you can also, again, use admin week if you can talk to a receptionist or a secretary because of the time overlap. And again, similar, who are your targets, use case, how to connect the menu, product visualization. We'll make sure we're sending that out as well. But a lot of them is very similar. Celebrate the short term, understand the long-term needs, find out where the meals are being held, and what's the purpose when you're having a meal. Is it a celebration? Is it a training, an education? Is it a reward meeting? Understanding those things, your targets, medical labs, food labs, product testing labs, scientific labs, and again, hospitals, colleges, and universities. So good entry ways into those that are going to provide something all year long. And then the last VBR for April, Paraprofessional Appreciation Day. And one of our experts turned me on to this. I was oblivious to it, and I've been doing this a really long time. When we started, she brought it to our attention. She goes, "Have you ever done Paraprofessionals Day?" I'm not even sure I understood what a paraprofessional was until I kind of dug into it. And more schools are bringing more and more folks as teaching assistants and other folks into the education system. Some of these schools now have 25% of their staff or more made up of paraprofessionals. So there's catering opportunities on the short term of a decent size, but you're a month out from teacher week here. So the upside is huge. And so you're using this event on the calendar as a talking point to talk one more time to HR, to or if it's a district office or a secretary or a counselor or an assistant principal. Allie, not sure. Have you ever done much with paraprofessionals? Again, this was relative. I'm only 2 years into this one, so not really.
I have not. It makes perfect sense. My kids both have them in their classrooms. When you said it and I saw it on here, I was like, oh, this makes total sense as a warm up, basically, or an intro for Teacher Appreciation Week, which obviously I've focused on in the past. But no, and I will be focused on it this year for the first time.
I felt clueless. Well, last year we started really hunting this, and we got a bunch of orders in early April, and it was all tied around Paraprofessionals Day. So something, if on as you're listening, guys, it's a reason to reach out, but some revenue here that's going to be very helpful. And again, your targets: K through 12 public schools, private and parochial, school district offices. Start with a secretary or assistant principal. If it's a school target, for a district office, HR is usually where I would lean in. There's probably a director of paraprofessionals or something similar at that office. And then again, celebration, short term, but the long-term play is your school relationship all year long, how to connect your menu and how to build product visualization. So those are our main VBRs. So here's some other ones, because April's getting to be that time of year. There's a lot of stuff on here. I'll share some things. Occupational Therapy Month. Most occupational therapy offices don't have a ton of people. This is not physical therapy. This is more occupational. So the offices tend to be smaller, but there may be some meal opportunities there. Autism Awareness Month, that is becoming a larger and larger situation in our country. And so there's more and more events than used to be for this. Pest Control Month, again, you want a reason to call Terminex. You have one here if you're trying to get into that office. School Library Week, another foot in the door for schools. Dental hygienists, we just finished Dental Assistants Week, I think a week or two ago, so there's something there. Pet Day, so hit your pet stores, hit the veterinarians again. Public Safety Telecom Week, so call centers, anything having to do with police, having anything to do with City Hall, those kinds of things, all probably some opportunities there. National Lineman Appreciation Day, so your electric companies, your cable companies, anything that fall into that space are going to give you some upside there. Health Information Professionals Week, that's a hospital play usually. School Volunteer Week, again, another reason to go into the schools. And then Bus Driver Appreciation, yet another reason to go into schools. All of this leading right up to Teacher Appreciation Week. All right, couple things. The catering hack, here's one. If you want to use it for Google, this is something that I've been doing for 20 years and it still works like a charm. Go to Google, put your city, put lunch provided in quotes as a string, and then put the date. I usually just start with the year, 2025. Rotate words for more choices. So think lunch is provided, lunch is ES, lunch is that's plural provided, lunch included, lunch is offered. We've seen a bunch of different varieties, and they all generate different results. Use your month if you get too many. So if you're in Atlanta or Dallas or Nashville, you want to put a month in there to kind of streamline it a little bit. Otherwise, it gets overwhelming. So you can put May, you can put June and get fewer results. And then keep in mind past events. Future events are better because I can sell it, but a past event is not bad because there was an event, there was a point of contact, there's an approximate number of people, you know the venue where it took place. There's a lot of information there for you to tap into. Very seldom does somebody cater just once. So I would be something that I would say look into. All right. And then let's talk about AI for a second. And I wish I had more time. The main ones, Meta, ChatGPT, Grok. I was using ChatGPT. Grok came out and it blows it away. It's like 10 times more advanced than what I was seeing. And so I put a simple request in the Grok because we do a lot of catering for hospital residency programs. It's a big revenue driver for some of our clients around the country. And I said, can you build me a list of every medical hospital's residency program in the country just for pediatrics, providing me with the hospital name, residency program name, point of contact, phone name, email, and physical address. That's exactly what I typed in. And it says, yes, I can give you all 200, but that's a lot. So let me just give you the first 15. And it gave me 15. And you could put by state and it would narrow it. And it gave me that information in about 10 seconds. It gave me a point of contact name. It gave me an email address. It gave me a phone number for the hospital versus the whatever. But you can see everything that you would need there. And it did it for all of them. We tried it with a lot of other different categories. So when you're talking about a new way to source businesses and leads, I think that was our question earlier. LinkedIn is fine if you're going to LinkedIn them and message them. If you are looking for building a list and getting a point of contact, or maybe you can email first or hit them from different angles, I've not found anything. Now, you got to verify some stuff and you got to learn how to ask some questions. So AI wants to learn and AI wants to give you an answer. And sometimes it'll give you a wrong answer in its quest to find a solution. So as you start learning, verify what it's spitting out and make sure, because we did some of that. And then we just got better at how to ask our questions. And then it started giving us more and more accurate information. You almost have to fuss at it a little bit to say, well, that's wrong. That wasn't what I wanted. So the more you use it, the more accurate it becomes. It will understand your reason for asking the questions. As you become better at asking questions, it'll give you better answers. So like sports schedules and things along those, which we do, it picked up a different year. So you have to specifically say, not this year, say 2025 and this range. You have to be very specific. Sorry. Don't skip over the smaller details as they drive accuracy. If you can take, it can take your results and turn them into a CSV file, which is awesome because then you can put it right into your CRM. Again, validate and make sure everything's there. But to me, from what I've seen, the ability that Grok 3 specifically has and others that are coming out behind it is going to be way better to be able to generate leads for you than just a regular Google search at this point. So we're still learning on it. We probably should I talked to Ari the other day, we should probably just do one webinar just on AI and how to use it for selling purposes. So this is a newbie slide as well. This is a 7-step communication plan. When you get the copy of the deck at the end, you'll have all of these details on how many times after you acquire an email that you should be reaching out to folks and how should you and when and the time. We'll share all that with you. And then we're going to wrap this up with a minute to go. And I guess if we have some questions, we can answer some. Peek into April. We're going to hit May hard. Teacher week, nurses week, construction week, lawyer well-being week. And yes, it's a thing and we'll talk about it. It's one of those, but man, it worked like a charm for us last year. And then EMS, EMT week and more. So we're heavy into appreciation season. So in May, we're going to talk about those way in more detail. We just wanted to emphasize admin week. I think there's so much upside here and people can miss it and blow by it, or they can try just to sell it. And so I wanted to make sure we add some more time about that. So Allie, awesome. Anything else? Yeah.
I want to make sure, I think we answered Allison's question about favorite online resources for finding new companies. It sounds like that's what you just talked about there, Byron, and something I love to do too. We also had one about advice for connecting with corporate local or corporate business admins through LinkedIn. I think you mentioned this. I haven't found LinkedIn, like an unpaid version of LinkedIn, to be the best way for me to find that. I don't find that a lot of admins are very active on LinkedIn, actually.
No, not usually.
And then the last thing, Sarah added that when using AI, it often comes back with, that's a lot of information. And so they like to ask for the first 25 or 50 if you want a longer list. I would also just say, don't think about like what it can give you and then having to do stuff yourself. Ask it to do that for you. Ask it what the best way to whittle that list down is, or what, how you could make the most use of that list or something. Find your own ways to ask it. But to your point, Byron, we've only kind of begun to scratch the surface of this.
Well, if you ask it, how can I upload it into my Salesforce? It'll tell you exactly step by step what you need to do. It'll even create codes and it'll write code for you. It'll do some of that for you. The challenge is accuracy at first. So get better at asking the questions, but I love it. To your point about LinkedIn, you're right. Administrative professionals are not active on LinkedIn. And if they are, they're not usually putting contact information either. So there's no phone or email or anything that you can find. So LinkedIn's a little bit of a challenge. Allison, for with what your question, if you have any specific questions, feel free to reach out to me via email, and I'll share some of the phrasing and the questions that I use, because I find I'm getting better at this and it's starting to give me really good results. So anything else on the Q&A? We're good?
No, that's it.
First of all, thank you, everybody. We're going to keep trying to make these as effective and as plentiful as possible. I know some of you have reached out with some ideas that we're going to incorporate into next month's webinars. We're going to always try to sandwich the VBRs with a couple of other talking points. I think that kind of keeps the flow going here. But just thank you. And please share with your friends and neighbors and peers and coworkers and such. We would love more and more folks to kind of participate. The more that can hear, don't be stingy. If you like the information, don't be stingy. We want to share it, but please feel free to invite anyone, and then we'll get the recording out. Again, you can go to catermind.io, join our community, or you can use the link that's in the chat, and that's where we're going to house the recordings. But again, if you have any questions, reach out to me, and I'll make sure you can get a copy of it as well. Allie, thank you so much. As long as you're going to want to keep doing these, I would love to have you. So as long as you want to keep being a part of this, we would love to have you until you get sick of us. So just let me know. But
Thank you. It's always fun. You might have to put like a muzzle on me after a while.
I know. I love it. I think it's great. We cover a whole lot of stuff in 62 minutes or whatever it is. So
well, thank you,
everybody. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. I think we're good to go. Have a great rest of your week. And if you have any questions, please just reach out. All right. All the best, y'all.
See you guys.
Bye.